Hello students, we are going to study another infectious disease, leprosy. Leprosy is also known as Hansen's disease and it is coming from the word lepi, which means scale on the fish. So this disease was firstly discovered by Gerard Armour Hansen in 1873 and on whose name the disease is named as Hansen's disease. Leprosy or Hansen's disease is a chronic systemic infectious disease which is occurring progressively in longer period of time, but it is primarily affecting peripheral nerves, that is at the peripheral regions of the body, and secondarily it is progressively affecting the skin, mucous membrane, eyes, bones, lymph nodes and the visceral organs. So the major causative organ which is causing the bacterial infection, that is leprosy, so this causes the chronic granulomatous infection, and the causative organism is the acid fast bacteria called as Mycobacterium leprae. So the causative microorganism which is causing leprosy is Mycobacterium leprae or ML. Mycobacterium leprae cannot be grown on the culture media outside the body, and hence we cannot test the effect of drug on this mycobacteria outside the body or in the in vitro testing. So growth and drug susceptibility tests are done by injecting inoculate in the mouse foot pad test. Live dormant in macrophages but alive. It is transmitted from one person to another through the nasal droplets, skin lesions from the infected persons. It is affecting mainly the peripheral nervous system, the nervous system, skin and various tissues and organs in our body. So here the Mycobacterium leprae is a causative organism for the leprosy whose sensitivity is less in the in vitro because it cannot be cultured in the in vitro but can be tested through injecting in the mouse foot pad. It is remaining live or dormant in the macrophages and it is affecting various parts of the body and transmitted through the nasal droplets and the skin lesions of the infected person. So this is the actual picture of the Mycobacterium leprae. You can see the structure. It is structure of the bacteria. It is rod shaped structure. So the major organs which are affected by this Hansen's disease or leprosy is the skin and peripheral nerves. Why? Because the bacteria resides in the cooler parts of the body. So it goes and resides into the skin and peripheral nerves. Mode of infection. Leprosy is a slow communicable disease, affects progressively, and an incubation period is between first exposure and appearance of signs of disease. So the incubation period is very less. Direct contact is leading to the direct or prolonged close contact to the infectious patients is leading to the leprosy, and through this damaged skin, nasal secretion and mucous membrane contact, this leprosy is spread. It is also spread through the Materno-foetal transmission, that is from the infected mother to the baby. Transmission occurs also from the milk of mother to the infants. So it is a slowly progressive communicable disease wherein it is spread through either direct contact with the infected person, a very close contact to the nasal secretions, damaged skin and mucous membrane, from the mother to the baby, and through the milk from infected mother to the baby. So transmission is occurring due to the nasal or oral droplets and dermal inoculations, that is from the infected person's skin to the normal person. Armadillo. So armadillo are the animals which are the first one to spread this disease leprosy. So they transmit the leprosy and they act as the animal model along with the monkey, mice and rabbit for the testing the anti-leprotic drugs. So this was the first animal which transmitted the leprosy. Incidence. So it is incident, or the person who are living in the endemic areas are at a high risk with poor conditions such as inadequate bedding, contaminated food, water, insufficient diet, and other disease that compromise immune function. So the persons can get leprosy if their immunity is very low, or it is more prominently seen in the immunocompromised patients. So where the conditions are poor, that is the hygiene is inadequate, the contaminated food and water is there, or in the very hot or moist conditions or areas, the chances of spread is more. According to the WHO, India, Brazil, Indonesia, Myanmar and Nigeria are the most affected countries with the large number of cases. Classification: there are mainly two types of leprosy: tuberculoid type, which is having higher resistance, and lepromatous or low resistance. So the cases which are not falling into these two are considered as the baseline or borderline leprosy. So we have the major two types: tuberculoid, lepromatous, and third one is the borderline leprosy. Classification: now based on the clinical, bacteriological, immunological and histopathological studies or features, leprosy can be classified into the following types. First is paucibacillary, which is also known as tuberculoid leprosy. So here it has got scanty or less amount of bacilli which are present in the skin lesions and leading to the loss of sensation. Next is multibacillary, which is also known as borderline. It consists of large number of bacteria and numerous skin lesions are present. There is loss of sensation. And then next is multibacillary, that is lepromatous leprosy. So here nodules, plaques and thickened dermis is there, loss of sensation, neuronal damage and nasal congestion and epistaxis. So these are the different types of the leprosy based upon the clinical, bacteriological, immunological and histopathological features. Symptoms: the major organ system which is affected by the leprosy, by the Mycobacterium leprae or the leprosy, is the nervous system. So it affects the nerves of hand, feet and face. In tuberculoid leprosy, the skin lesions typically develop in the areas of nerve damage. Skin becomes pale and may develop reddish copper color. Lepromatous leprosy, there is loss of sensation to prick or light touch that starts from fingers and toes and affect a small patch of skin to begin with, and thus as the time passes it spreads through the many skin lesions and nodules develop and organ deformities are occurring successively. Next is tuberculoid type of leprosy. So in this, bacilli are usually absent in the slit skin smear. So if you take the smear of the skin, you won't be finding the tuberculoid leprosy or bacilli. The histopathology can show tuberculoid granulomas, which are indicators of tuberculoid leprosy. These are composed of epithelioid cells and surrounded by zone of lymphocytes. So in this case, lepromine test is strongly positive in the tuberculosis. So this is the tuberculoid type of leprosy. So you can see that depigmentation of the skin is there, and this depigmentation is having the loss of sensation also in that area to touch as well as the prick. Next is lepromatous leprosy. It consists of the skin lesions or cutaneous lesions, which consist of mainly macules, papules, infiltration or nodules, which are also known as lepromas. So there are numerous bilateral, symmetrical, ill-defined with shiny surfaces. So all these are the lesions. The sites are commonly affected are face, arms, legs, buttocks, etc. But they can be found anywhere in the body. So this is the lepromatous leprosy, wherein you can see the nodules onto the body. Next, coming on to the diagnosis, how we can diagnose the leprosy or the different types of leprosy. So clinical signs and symptoms are helpful in the diagnosis, like anesthesia, that is loss of sensation in the patchy areas, nerve enlargement, characteristic skin lesions. These are the major indicators of the leprosy. The slit skin smears show Ziehl-Neelsen staining, which is acid fast staining of the skin smear. Skin biopsy, nerve biopsy and lepromine test are the other diagnostic measures to determine whether the leprotic infection is there or not. Clinical symptoms associated with that is the diagnosis. So signs and symptoms can show us that whether leprosy is present or not, and if yes, what type of leprosy is there. Skin smear tests. So if you take the smear from the skin and stain it with the acid fast Ziehl-Neelsen carbol-fission stain, ZNCF stain, then it will be absent, the bacteria will be absent in the case of paucibacillary and will be present in the case of multibacillary into the smear. Next is lepromine tests. So it is nothing but an immunological test which is indicative of host resistance to the M. leprae or Mycobacterium leprae. So a sample of inactivated or live attenuated leprosy causing bacteria is injected under the skin, usually on the forearm. So if the immune reaction is occurring, then the lepromine test is positive in the case of, which is occurring in the case of tuberculoid leprosy. So in this tuberculoid leprosy, immune system is strong and working properly, it is not immunocompromised. So positive lepromine test is seen showing allergic reaction. But in the lepromatous type of leprosy, the immune system does not recognize this bacteria, that is immune system is functioning less, or what we can say is the person becomes immunocompromised. So lepromine test is found to be negative in the lepromatous leprosy, which can be distinguished from the tuberculoid leprosy. Mechanism of the nerve damage. So here, as the bacteria enters through the blood vessels, it shows inflammatory response in the peripheral nerves, which further leads to the demyelination or loss of the myelin sheath, leading to the nerve damage. Outcomes of the nerve damage: there is loss of the sensation at that particular area, paralysis is there, deformities are there. Now coming on to the treatment of the leprosy. So there are several drugs which are used for the treatment of leprosy. The major ones are sulfones, and in that the dapsone, which is a weak bactericidal agent. So this is the major drug used to treat leprosy, but it is not given individually. It is given as an MDT therapy, which you might have heard in the government programs for eradication of the leprosy. So dapsone, clofazimine and rifampicin are the three drugs used in the combination in MDT, that is multiple drug therapy. Antibiotics are also given along with that is ofloxacin, clarithromycin and minocycline. So in 1995, WHO distributed MDT drugs for free to worldwide patients, and World Leprosy Day is celebrated on January 13 in remembrance of Gandhiji. So this is all about the leprosy, the pathophysiology, the causative organism, clinical signs and symptoms, clinical features, diagnostic characteristics, as well as treatment. Thank you so much.